Now, in the book, I show you that the letter M in Medunete or hieroglyphics is symbolized by the owl. And the sound of R is a mouth. So now why would more, in terms of what more means, the origins of the word, what would the origins of the word more mean? You have an owl and you have a mouth. Okay. When you look at the owl as see, I'm from the Bronx. I don't see too many owls in my neighborhood. Okay, so I got to go to the Bronx Zoo to see an owl. Or I got to look in a book to see an owl. But when you're out
Right.
there in nature, owls are
Yeah.
all around you. So
Yeah.
owls you start looking at them, you start studying them, and you start seeing they got characteristics that sort of kind of
Mhm.
make things happen. The owl has always been known or been characterized in our civilization as being wise.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, we had wise potato chips. The owl was on the pack. You see commercials even now where you have advertising for glasses to see better, knowledge and wisdom, see better. And it's an owl telling you the story. Okay. When you graduate, a lot of graduations, the symbol of graduations is an owl. So you're dealing with the concept, the characteristics of being wise when you see the owl. But okay, the owl is not the most intelligent bird. So why would the owl represent intelligence? Because the owl can do two things that to the African people symbolized something that was wise. For one thing, an owl can turn its head almost 360 degrees.
Yes.
It can take its head and look 360 degrees, which means that in all things that happen to you, you can see all sides. You're not prejudicial. You're not
Yeah.
standing off on the side and looking at something only one way. You have the capacity to see everybody's view of something. They saw that as being very wise. Owls are nocturnal animals, and they can see in the dark, which to our ancestors meant that you could see intelligence in ignorance. You could extract the best and leave the rest. And so the owl represented knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Mm, mm. Now let's take it to the next level. When you make the sound, M is the only sound you make where your mouth must be totally closed. M, M. It's the only sound you make with your mouth closed. A, B, C, D, E, S, Z, K, T. Your mouth is open. M is the only sound, only letter that we have where your mouth must be closed. And when you say the letter, the sound is the first sound that every human makes when they come out of their mother's womb and they suckle at her breast. Because in order to be able to extract the milk from mother's breast, your mouth must be totally closed and totally envelops the nipple and the first sound we make when we come on the planet. Okay. And when you make that sound, you tickle a part of your brain. And that area that you have in the Grand Lodge of Luxor in Egypt, they built a room specifically to show where that area is, and it's known as the sacred sanctuary. You have six senses. You don't have five. You have six. Thinking is a sense. That sacred sanctuary is right behind your olfactory bulb, is where you breathe, where you smell, is right behind your olfactory bulb. And that area right there, there's a physical location where all of your six senses come together. What you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you touch, what you taste, and what you think. They're all located right behind that olfactory bulb. And when you make that sound, you can feel a tickling in the back of your brain. That place where it's tickling, it's vibrating in melanin and cerebrospinal fluid. And that's why you have that meditative word, Mami, Muhammad. That M sound is very sacred because well, check this out. When you taste, when you taste something good, what do you say?
Yeah. It'd be like,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay. When you
Yeah.
get a good idea, what do you say?
Mm.
Mm. When
Yeah.
grandma got a situation where she got to think it over, right? She gets in the wheelchair and she starts to rock back and forth. And what does she start to do? She starts to hum.
Yeah.
She's meditating when she's doing that.
That's right.
Okay. So that letter M of more is the highest form of consciousness. It's bringing you into that level of being sacred as a human being. And then what is the R? Okay. We have three gifts that separate us from all others. We have intellect, reason, and language. Knowledge is the accumulation of information. Reasoning is manipulating that information to come to higher levels of consciousness in what you know. And then language allows you to transmit what you know. And it all comes from your mouth. So when you have the owl and the mouth, mirror, more, then what you have is the concept that Moors are the highest form, the masterpiece of the cosmic universe, endowed by their creator. Okay, not America's creator, not Europe's creator, by their creator. The pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The creator gave you that when you were born. And that's what we have to understand about the Moors. We as Moors have been through all sorts of different situations, but we knew that if we just kept on keeping on, it wasn't over till we won. When you look at the curriculum and you're teaching our children, you have to look at the Moors from the perspective of the creative arts, which is like arts and crafts, sculpture. You have to look at the Moors as it relates to performing arts, dance, music. The first flamenco in Spain was flamenco moro. It was the black flamenco. We built schools in Europe. You look at language arts, all the different ways. Black folk have a phenomenal way of talking. And not only that, but when things get real good and we're into the vibe and the frequency is moving, our body starts to move. That's bad, man. I mean, some people say, that's very good. And black folks say, man, that's bad. And they say, but wait a minute, didn't you say that was good? But see, they don't understand that when something is so good,
It's
it got to be
bad.
bad.
That's right.
And then we get our intone and our voice into it. That's bad.
Mm.
And when it's better than bad, then we got to get our body up in it. You see, this is us. We have flavor. And so we have to teach our children to embrace that, to understand that,
That's right.
celebrate that. That's the communication arts, performing arts, creative arts, and language arts. Then you have STEM, the sciences. Science, technology, engineering, and math. You got to teach that to them as it relates to the Moors, because the Moors brought that into Europe. They built the universities of Europe, Cambridge, Oxford, Salamanca, Coimbra, okay, all of them. They brought in the first musical conservatory, okay? They brought the harp in to Europe, turned it sideways, encased it in wood, combined it with the kalimba, the finger piano, and that's how Bach and Beethoven started playing piano. Because when you look at a grand piano, it's a harp turned sideways. And that's why you got to lift it up in order for the sounds of the strings to be able to permeate the room. And so we got the science and the math. We brought that into Europe. We brought soap, alcohol, call it alcohol today, to disinfect you when you're sick. We saved them. 2/3 of Europe was dying from the plague. That was a pandemic.
Mm.
Europeans were so superstitious, they got rid of all the cats in Europe, killed them or just chased them away. And them rats was sitting up in the sewer. And them rats was saying, yeah, get that cat over there, particularly that black cat. Get that black cat is bad luck. A black cat once told me, it was a white cat that started that rumor, that black cat was bad luck. So they got rid of all the cats.
Yeah.
And when all the cats went, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And the mice came out and gave them a disease. They had to buy rats from other countries in Europe to bring back into parts of Europe. Along with the Moorish inventions of medicine and things like that, saved them. And then you teach them geography, history, politics, economics, and social. The Moorish history from the Moors. You create curriculum out of that. And that's what I do. I create curriculum. Because out of all these books came out of classes I've already taught. And all I did was accumulate my work, my notes, because I used to always ask my students, even my kindergarten children, I would ask them, how could I have made this class better?
Mm.
What could I have said that would have made you understand this a little bit better? Our older daughter, when she was in the 5th grade, she came home. And I used to sit with my children and work with their homework. But this particular time, she was learning long division. And I worked with her. We worked hard, man. Finally, she was getting it little by little. She had to think about it, She got the answer. The next day, she come home and she's doing long division. And man, let me tell you something, Brother Caleb, she's just knocking them things out like that. Man, and like I'm feeling good about myself. I say, yeah, that daddy-daughter kind of thing going on here. I helped you, didn't I? And she said, yeah, Daddy, I appreciate the help you gave me, but we had a substitute teacher today. And she said, if you ever want to understand how to do long division, just remember Dracula's mother sucks blood. Divide, multiply, subtract, and bring over. Substitute teacher, wasn't even her teacher. Those types of things, acronyms, things that we teach, those little things help. And I've learned how to do certain things because when I teach long division, sometimes I teach. When I teach the planets, I teach the idea my very educated mother, just served us 9 pickles. Even though Pluto not a planet, if it's on the test, get it right. Don't tell them the truth, you get the answer wrong. Oh. But that's the acronym for the 9 planets. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then a comma. The comma is very important because that's the asteroid belt. Because that's what separates the inner planets from the outer planets. Because all the outer planets are gas giants, all the inner planets are solids. Okay, so you have my very educated mother, just Jupiter, served Saturn, us, Uranus, 9, Neptune, Pluto. Pluto not a planet. Pluto is a moon because it's a solid. It couldn't be a planet because it's a moon that circles Neptune. This is how we can teach the Moors. Have them draw owls, have them draw a mouth, teach them about the word. Go into all the different subject areas. Help them understand music, art. And develop an understanding. Show them cut out pictures of Moors. But see, it's up to us to create that curriculum, and that's what I'm attempting to do. We have to have the curriculum in place.
Yeah.
for our children to be able to learn this about the Moors and who the Moors were. And then, of course, in the book, I wind up with the fact that the hands that built the pyramids built the White House. So now I talk about the Moors in America. I talk about all the pyramids in America. Along the Mississippi River, there are over 110 pyramids. And there are major ones, big ones, Cahokia, Monk's Mound, in a place called Collinsville, Illinois. Ohio got Serpent Mound. Ohio got so many mounds when you go up to Ohio. And then you go to Utah. And then I say to people, okay, now what do you know about Utah? Okay, and right there, who you got up in there? You got more mans. It's there right in front of us. And they are an outcast in the Christian faith. They, of course, turned it around, became very racial about it, but they were just doing that to offset the fact that they got their spiritual system from Black people who were already there when they got there. So we talk about the Africans in America and how far back they go, and we use the book by Dr. David Imhotep. The first Americans were Africans. Brilliant brother. So that's who we are, man. This, this is what we're doing, trying to move through this process.
Indeed, Baba. I remember, man, being a young freshman in college almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago now. And I remember I was first introduced to your work, from just scrolling on YouTube. And one of my favorite all-time lectures, I believe this might have been like early 90s, late 80s, you were talking about Moorish history. And one of those clips, you talked about there being more pyramids in the Americas than it is out in Africa, right? With all of that being said, on your hoodie, we see the native headdress, all of those things.
Yes.
What impact did the Moors have also in America as well? Because I think that that's not spoken on too much.
Well, that's the key also, because I have 5 appendices in the book, and one of them is pyramids in America.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at the feathers, okay, you're looking at Ma'at.
Yeah.
And the eagle in America is the falcon or the hawk in Africa. That's Heru, the resurrected sun. And so it's just so powerful when you think of the Moors, because all Africans are Moors. The Twa and Buti Khoisan, they are African. And so when they came to this part of the world, they came about 100,000 years ago. And they laid the foundation for American civilization. See, this is why I say about the interpretation of things. Because the Chinese people are Africans.
Yeah.
They are a people that got caught in the Ice Age, but they traveled east. And they developed their own lifestyle. The ones that stayed in the West, they became Europeans. They're Africans. There's only one race on the planet, and that's the African. And one of the things that happened, and to understand pyramid, you have to understand something called ring tumuli. R-I-N-G, tumuli, T-U-M-U-L-I. That's the plural for tumulus, which is the singular. And these were mounds on the earth. These were earth mounds. These weren't man-made, human-made. And what Africans over time began to realize is that according to the shadow that is cast by the sun, tells you what time it is.
Yeah.
It can tell you the season that you're in. The big ones can tell you the season. This is what a sundial is. It can tell you what time it is. Okay? Because if you look at a watch really is a sundial.
That's right. Yes.
Now it's digital, so it's a little bit different. But when you had it, a clock really is something that goes by that concept of a sundial. And so when you're dealing with this idea of a ring tumuli, what our ancestors did is that they started to build them on their own, not just the earth ones, but they put them in places when they began to learn the different cardinal points. And when they wanted to deal with the cardinal points to know what season it was, what crops to grow, what time of day it was, they built these ring tumuli all around in their nation, in their environment. And so when you're looking, why pyramids? Why did they do that? When you look at the three pyramids in Kemet, all pyramids entrance is north. It all faces north. And if you were to get inside each of those pyramids, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure in the north, and open it up and put a telescope, every one of them point to the polar star. They all point to the pole star. And that is where the 26,000 year calendar came from. All on that particular star, Polaris. All of it. You can see as the Earth turns, you can see that they're all pointing towards that, and that's how they were able to create a 26,000 year calendar. And you can go to South Africa, I have it in the book, where you can go to something known as the Adams calendar. And that, they say, is between 100 and 150,000 years old. This is how deep it gets, Brother Caleb, in terms of what our ancestors did and how long they've been around.
Yeah.
And here in America, when you look at how long they've been here in America, the challenge, of course, is that there are those that believe that they are autochthonous. Okay, autochthonous, autochonous, autochthonous, which means you came from the soil. There's only one place on the planet where humans came from the soil, and that's in Central and Southern Africa. Everybody else is a migrant. Even Ghanaians weren't born in Ghana. They all migrated from this center part in Africa and moved out. There's a part in my book, Who Were the Moors, that I talk about something very important to understand. Some people have a problem with it, but I found out, I studied it, I put the information in the book because I think it's important to understand. When you're dealing with the concept of, let's just say you're dealing with the concept of humanity and you're dealing with apes. Apes and humans did not evolve from apes. But apes and humans have a common ancestor. Some people call it Ramapithecus. See, I didn't write this in any of the other books. I was waiting for this book because this is where I can talk about it. Ramapithecus. Ramapithecus, or the Ramapithecines, were in a tree. There was some, for whatever reason, there was some Ramapithecines that decided to come down on the earth and walk. For whatever reason. Some might have been kicked out, kicked off the tree, or saw something they wanted to get on the tree and went down to get it and decided, well, now that I'm down here, I ain't going back up there. Too crowded up in them trees. So they stayed on the ground. And then there were ones that stayed in the tree. The ones that stayed in the tree became Pongids, the apes. The ones that came down on the ground became hominids. They were the beginnings of the human family. But what made the change? See, again, we got to go after evidence because I don't play with our people. Dr. Clark used to always tell me, don't play with Black people. Don't be cute. Don't try to be funny all the time. You can be humorous, but, don't play with them. Be serious with our people so that they can get a sense of and always be prepared. That's the one thing you always say, be prepared. And so that came out of the study, that came out of searching for evidence to be able to present to our people so that it makes common sense to them in their neurons. Henrietta Lacks, one of the many things that empress did, she was the one that showed scientists, because up until then they thought that humans had 48 chromosomes. 24 from mother, 24 from father. Henrietta Lacks's cells, the HeLa cells, showed that in fact humans have 46 chromosomes, 23 mother, 23 father. But apes have 48. So what happened? You have to study chromosome 2 and 3 in the DNA structure of the Ramapithecine. And you'll see that the hominid did what's called cojoining chromosome. The telomere are at the areas of the chromosome that protects it from invading things. Don't let anything mess with the DNA. At some point in time, to survive on the ground, the telomeres came together. And what was once 2 chromosomes became 1. And that's what created humans out of Ramapithecine compared to the pangid or the ape. I have a whole diagram in the book on this. It took me about a year to do that research, just that alone, because I knew when I presented it, you can't take that to church. But that's the science of what happened. 2 chromosomes blended to become 1. And that's what made the 23 chromosomes in mother and 23 in father, and took away 1 from each of them, but they joined them into 1. And that basically is what separated the pangids from the hominids. And the reason why life did not come from America, could not be autochthonous to America, is because wherever the human form came, there had to have been apes in the close proximity. And the only place on earth you'll find apes is in Rwanda, in the Virunga Mountains. That is where they're from. You're not going to find apes in America. You're not going to find apes in Asia. You might get some orangutans, but you're not going to get apes or chimps as they are. So this is the evidence that separated the human, and this is the science of who we are as a people. And I think it's very valuable for those people whose minds are open and can handle it. It'll make a lot of sense to you. For those of you who may be wedded to religions, might not be too cool. But I love you anyway.
Indeed, Baba. Baba, in past lectures, you would break down cities like Cordova, right, where it's beautiful street lamps, all of these things. How advanced was Moorish society, technology, all of those things? And also, if the Moors, if they never failed per se in 1492, where would we be at as a people, civilization today, if that would have never failed?
Somebody need to write a book about that.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to write a book about the Moors in Europe.
Yeah.
And what would have happened had the Europeans been more appreciative of what the Moors did for them?
Yeah.
And instead of trying to overtake them and conquer them and enslave them, had they embraced them, where would we be now? We probably would be traveling in space. We probably would have surpassed Mars. We probably would be beyond our solar system, because our ancestors would have brought a science that Europe has never been able to contemplate. And the reason why they can't contemplate that, the biggest problem in Western civilization, this is what Professor James Smalls told us, is that the Greeks separated spirituality from science. And that's why my subtitle in Spirituality Before Religions is Spirituality is Unseen Science, and Science is Seen Spirituality. Because that alone, when you split them away from each other,
Yeah.
you can never come. And this is what Sister Marimba Ani meant by Yurugu. the incomplete one. You'll always be searching for something. You'll always be searching for that other person in you. You'll always be searching. You'll never find it because you'll look for love in all the wrong places. And part of our problem as an African people is we're looking for God out there. Brother sing a song, sister does a dance, win awards, and want to thank God. But you don't want to dance and sang. Why are you thanking somebody that ain't even here? You don't even know where they live.
Right.
You the one that danced. It was the God in you that performed that dance. It was the God in you that performed in that movie. It was the God in you that did that. But we are so prone to be slave-minded. We want to look outside ourselves for the greatness that we should be owning ourselves. Own your great. That's what Dr. Gabriel Yibo told me. Own your greatness and respect the greatness in others. When you honor your own greatness, it's not that you're putting anybody else down. It's just that you're recognizing how great you are. You know, Usain Bolt, that brother used to run. Okay. Other brothers and sisters in the Olympics. And at the end, whop, you know, they would profile, even in football, all the things that brothers do in football when they do something good.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, that's bragging, that's showing off. No, it's not. You just owning your greatness. Look at what you just did.
Right.
Hey, that's good. You know, we have different perceptions. Dr. Clark used to always say, and I always say, and it sometimes, you know, with the wrong group, you know, they might not necessarily understand. I tell people, I've never met a mind finer than mine. But I've had the honor and the pleasure of being in the presence of minds as fine as mine, but none finer.
Sure.
Own your greatness. Understand who you are. I tell that to children all. And a lot of the rappers do that, you know, when they profile and doing all this sort of, but it's almost like they're doing it only because they want to feel it, but they don't know it. Know it and know why. Know why you are the way you are. If you got something and you dropping it and you got that flavor, understand it, know it, own it, be proud of it. Don't play it down. Let the children see how proud you are. That's one of the things I always work with children. I always try to lead by example. Carry yourself with dignity. Lead by example. Be proud of who you are. Be happy to be African. You know, when you and I spoke the other day and you mentioned when you saw that Instagram post where I was really kicking it, man. I was having a good time. My niece's birthday. You know, one of the things that children often spoke to me about was the fact that a lot of times we seem angry.
Yeah.
And we're always fighting. There's a place for that. But there's also a place to have a good meal.
Yeah.
Have good friends. Dance. Let folks see you dance. You know, let them know that you enjoy it. You know, people say, well, that's Brother Kaba there. OG doing that. I'm so used to him teaching about Moors and about culture and about whatnot, but the brother can get down. Yeah, I can get down. I enjoy life. And the reason why I fight the way I fight is so I can have the time to dance and to celebrate. That's why we're here. Our Creator didn't bring us down here for us to suffer, because if we suffer, the Creator suffers. He brought us down here to have a good time. That's why he placed us in the Garden of Eden in Central and Southern Africa with all the different plants, all the different animals, all the different foods. Before we even came into existence, the Creator had created the banquet at the table. And then we came into existence to feast. Everything was set for us. But some of us, the prodigal son, we left home, went up into another area, and came back and brought devastation. to the people that they encountered. So we got to enjoy ourselves, you know, and we have to celebrate life. We have to let our people know there's a reason to live.
Mhm.
You know, when you see certain things happening right now, you know, you wonder what, or are you a type of human?
Yeah.
You take food out of the mouth of the babes, celebrate, not celebrate, separate families. The most important core group is a family. You snatch daddy from the family. You take a baby off mother's breast as an infant. Who are you? Who are you? And so we have to let our children know that, okay, that's happening, but it's up to us to make a difference. And that's why we have to get ourselves together. Man, we have to, you know, and we have it in us. We did it each time.
Yes, sir.
When the Greeks fell, we saved them. When the Romans fell, we saved them. When the Dark Ages came, we brought light to the Dark Ages. And then when they sold us in 1492 and they enslaved us, we fought back, and here we sit, Brother Caleb and Brother Kaba, sitting here talking about emancipation and liberation. We have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our minds. This is where we have to be now. And when I wrote the book, Who Were the Moors Before the Moors, bringing finality to that series, what I was attempting to say is, who were the Moors before they were the Moors? And the answer is, me a Moor. You a Moor. We all Moors.
Yes, sir, Bob. Baba, what can we learn from the Moors of the past in a time such as this, where, to your point about earlier, you see government shutdown, SNAP benefits, white supremacy, crazier, right? What can we learn from the Moors from their time to apply those lessons, information, knowledge, technology, etc., for right now in this current
Let me
moment?
let me take you to the Moors that were on the plantation
Mm,
here in America. See,
yeah, let's talk
we don't
about
have
it.
to go
Yeah,
back to 7-Eleven. We can go
that's
back
right.
to our ancestors on the plantation in this
That's
hemisphere,
right.
in
That's
the
right.
Caribbean, Central South America, Mexico, the United States, 13 colonies. Okay, what lesson did they teach us? They taught us, when you deal with social studies, geography, history, politics, economics, and social. Geography tells you where, history tells you when, politics tells you how did you govern? Economics told you what was of value to you, okay? And social was who. Okay, so when you answer the questions where, when, how, what, and who, you answer the question why. And when you answer that question why, you come to realize something about our ancestors on the plantation. Where? They had no idea where they were. When? They had no idea when they were going to be free or when they were captured. How? There was no government. The governance was being enslaved. That's all you needed to know about your condition. That's the politics of your condition. Economics, you work for free. And they barely fed you. And they used food the way they're using SNAP today. They used food to make you turn against each other, to make you turn against your woman or woman to the man. And who? You ain't no idea who you were. You had no idea who you were. But they found out where they were. They found out when they got there. They found out how to govern themselves, and they found out the economics of the wealth of the human spirit, and they came to realize who they were. And then when they did that, they answered the question why. And the reason why is because you were feared. The Moors were feared because Europeans knew that the Moors had saved them. And they knew that they would lose their power if you ever answered those 5 questions that would lead you to the 6th question. And that's why they punished you if you read. They forbid you from reading. And now what they're doing is they're taking your SNAP benefits and they're banning your books.
Yes.
Okay? Now, let me take you to another classical African civilization. Let me take you to the civil rights and the Black Power movement. And think about what our ancestors, what those Moors did then. Because those were Moors. Malcolm was a Moor. Martin Luther King was a Moor. Okay? Harriet Tubman, although she's in the other set on the plantation, but if you look at Ruby Bridges, that little girl that went to school with all them people yelling at her, Ruby Bridges, she was a Moor. You know, they were all Moors. What did they do? They did the best they could with what they had. Elijah Muhammad was a Moor. Marcus Garvey was a Moor. Noble Drew Ali was a Moor. Booker T. Washington was a Moor. See, that's the point I'm trying to make, Brother Caleb. All of these are Moors. We're all Moors. And we keep repeating the history, and they keep trying to divide us to stop us from understanding who we are. During the Civil Rights Movement, we answered the question, where, when, how, what, and who. And we came up with a civilization that blew the minds of all around the world. But now let me take you to another classical African civilization. Let me take you to the hip hop culture. Okay, because that's my culture. I grew up hip hop. I was a disc jockey in a radio station. I used to turntables. This was the growth of black radio with Bob Law, who had Night Talk. When I was at WWRL in New York in 1977-78, Bob Law was the director of community affairs. And I watched Bob Law do things in community relations that just was powerful. Black radio was happening. The black news was happening. So what did they do? They broke it up. I know because I was there. But what did the brothers do? Brothers say, oh yeah? Okay, you see those 2 turntables? Well, I'm going to get me 2 turntables. All those clubs you don't let me in, I'm going to start my own house parties. And while I spin the records, I'm going to let my boy do the rap. He going to talk to you. That's a classical African civilization. So what did they do? They co-opted it because I saw them co-opt it. I was there. When I started teaching in the Bronx in 1979, Rapper's Delight was the #1 song on the radio. The first rap song, Rapper's Delight. I was there. I was in the Bronx. I was in the Bronx when I watched the Zulu Nation. I was in the Bronx when I watched all the gangs, the Black Spades, and everybody coming together to do some stuff. That's a classical African civilization. And so it becomes important that when you deal with Moors that you don't get caught up looking way in the distant past. And that's, again, I add in my book, today, who are the Moors today? And I honor 3 of them. The first one I honor is the Honorable Noble Drew Ali, who started the Moorish Science Temple of America. The second Moor that I pay respect to is Sister Clara Muhammad, okay, the First Lady of the Nation of Islam. People don't know what that sister did. If that sister had not done what she did, the Nation of Islam probably would have fallen when Honorable Elijah Muhammad was put in prison. She kept the nation alive. She used to write passages out of the Quran and sneak them into prison so that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad could do his prayers. Sister Clara Muhammad. And then the third one is a brother by the name of Clarence 13X.
Mm.
Okay. Also known as Father Allah, who created the 5% nation of gods on earth. I used to see him in Harlem growing up. Never spoke to him. Can't lay claim, not gonna lie now. But I saw him and I knew. And everybody always went, why do you always call you God? He said, hey God, how you doing? People because I mean, you didn't hear people going around calling you God. And that was, Father Allah. And his Allah in Mecca is still standing on the corner of 126th Street and 7th Avenue. I pass it all the time. That's what brought me on to Wu-Tang's album. Because they followed my work. They knew my relationship with the 5% nation. I had a lot of brothers that used to come to my classes that were from the 5% nation. They would go back and teach the classes that I would teach them.
Mm.
Because when you understand certain things, and that was the strength of Father Allah, he was not afraid to call you God.